There we go. Well, good morning, everybody. I'm Alex Carothers, and today we're going to talk about what makes an aircraft fly. We get in airplanes all the time, and we're just trusting the physics. So sometimes it's great to ask that question. Well, how does this big old thing get in the air? And that's what we're going to talk about today. And I can't see all your faces, so I'll just wave to you and trust that you're actually awake this morning. I know it's 10 o'clock on a Saturday, so it comes up. I'll get my screens shared here. And as always, there's technology issues. Does not want to share my screen. Try it another way and see if this works. Okay, I think that works. Can everybody? Great, thank you there in the chat for letting me know it works, because I can't see what you're seeing. All right. So what makes an aircraft fly? Wonderful intro. We'll just skip ahead since we only have 30 minutes. Here we go. Can everybody hear the audio?
On Thursday, December the 17th, 1903, news came clattering across the world's wire machines that two brothers from Dayton in Ohio had flown a curious-looking air machine over the beach at Kitty Hawk in North Carolina for more than a minute. And if anyone was skeptical about the claim, these pictures were to prove it was true. For several years at the turn of the century, dozens of groups in Europe and America had been trying to get a flying machine to work. But defying gravity wasn't proving easy. Nevertheless, Wilbur and Orville Wright, after a long period of trial and error, found a formula that seemed to work. The problem they and everyone else had faced was how to generate enough power to get the machine off the ground and to keep it going once it was up in a stable and steady flight. The Wrights had developed a lightweight 25 horsepower engine, which provided a much higher power to weight ratio than anything that had gone before.
I bet this was scary the first time.
And a little help on the launch site from a heavy lead weight, they were airborne and away.
How would you like to have been the first person to do that? And later on, there was a crash, of course. So what gets an airplane in the air? So some of you, I hope, have studied about forces. What is a force? Something that acts on something, moves something, or stops something from moving. There's a whole class on that from what we call learning about forces. Today, we're going to talk about 4 forces that act on an airplane when you're in flight. And it's not enough to just talk about the forces as names. You have to talk about their relationship. So for the first one, if you've got a piece of paper that looks like this, or any piece of paper, just rip it until it's kind of small. I want to talk a little bit about something called lift. Now, the fun part of this one is you can do this at home. And some people call this magic. Check it out. Do not hyperventilate when you're doing this, young people. That's how you end up passing out. You don't need you passing out on your parents. They'll yell at me later. What is making that piece of paper go up? Way back, this old fart named Bernoulli figured out something called lift. And lift is something that happens when air is moving over an airfoil. What do I mean by an airfoil? Hold on a second. This is an airfoil. It's rounded on top and kind of flat on the bottom. There's a bigger distance between the front of this going over the top and down here. And what's really cool is that Bernoulli figured out air moving over a surface like this has to go faster underneath here. I'm sorry, faster over the top because it's going farther than it does down here. So it's traveling faster over the top, slower underneath here, and higher pressure builds up down here and lower pressure builds up here. And the result is lift. Now, that's not the only thing that produces lift, but it's the biggest thing that they figured out. Now I know what you mean by my doggy coming in. So this higher velocity air over here, because it has to travel farther to get to the same point back here at the back of the wing, has a lower pressure. Slower velocity down here, higher pressure. And it creates lift. And that is why this piece of paper goes up. So that produced our first force of flight called lift. Now this next one, can everybody see my little picture in the screen? Good, because if you can't, this next part's going to be really boring because you'll be just looking at a screen. And this next piece, I want everybody to stand up. Hopefully you're in a room that doesn't have a whole lot of stuff in it. Oh, you can't see me? I saw one. Here, I'll stop sharing my screen so everybody can at least see me for this part of it. There we go. Everybody stand up in the space that you're in, and I'm in my office, so there's not a lot of space, but it's safe to do this. And I want you to learn something called thrust. And get your legs kind of loose and get ready. And I just want you to jump up and touch the ceiling. I know you can't see me, just jump. Ow, I'm old. That kind of hurts. First part. Why did I or you go up in the first place? What made me leave the surface of the earth? Wasn't lift in this case, because I don't have wings out and I'm not flying through the air and producing lift. What pushed me off the surface of the earth? Yes, my legs pushed down on the floor, and opposite reaction, I went up. My legs produced thrust, and I went up. Now, the real question is, why did I come back down in the first place? Why didn't I just keep going right through my ceiling fan, through the ceiling, and out into space? What made me come back down? Gravity. Absolutely. Gravity works the opposite direction. So when I put the picture back up, we've identified 3 of the 4 forces of flight already. We already talked about lift. And then our legs produced thrust. And we went back down because of weight. Now, I'm going to pause real quick. Which of those three forces are good if you're trying to fly? Have you thought about that yet? Which of the three of these forces are good? And which one is bad if I'm trying to fly? All right, see the answer is yes. Lift and thrust are great. Those are the two forces that I, as a pilot, love to have. Lots of lift, lots of thrust. Okay, because if I run out of thrust, I better have a lot of lift. If I run out of lift, I better have a lot of thrust. So that means weight is bad if I'm trying to fly. Okay, hold on to that thought. This next one, how many of you have ever been in your parents' car, driving along, roll down the window, and stick your hand out of the car? Come on, I know. You're not supposed to, because you might hit something with your hand, okay? But yes, you've done it. What did you feel? So if I'm trying to go forward, if I'm trying to go that way, and I stick my hand out of the car, which way does my hand go? Backwards. You feel a force on your hand, and it's pushing your hand the opposite direction of where you're trying to go. That force is called drag. Now, if I'm trying to fly, is drag good or bad? I'm trying to go that way, and the force is pushing me that way. Drag is bad. So that means we have two bad forces and two good forces when we're trying to fly an airplane. Weight and drag are bad. Thrust and lift are good. Okay? So that means we have finally finished filling out the sheet. As soon as I find my mouse. So the good forces, lift and thrust, are working against weight and drag. So in answering a question, when someone says, what makes an aircraft fly? You now have the four forces of flight that you can talk about. Thrust, lift, weight, and drag. Are we done answering the question? Is the question complete or the answer complete when someone says, what makes an aircraft fly? Thrust, lift, weight, and drag. Blip. Are we done? Okay, Amber. Sorry, I'm Barry and Janelle. Yeah, you're saying no. Why not? What haven't we done? We haven't talked about the relationship of these forces. Okay. It's not enough to just throw these four forces out there, because we as humans interact with these forces as we fly the airplane, as we send something into the air, even if it's a rocket, not just an airplane. You have to talk about relationships when you talk about things going on in the real world. Okay. Why did I say good forces and bad forces? They have to interact with each other. And here's the fun part. There's a neat little dance that I usually have you do. I was going to bring my young sons in, but they have said, no, we'll never do this on television again. You have to talk about this relationship in terms of the good and the bad forces interacting. So when someone asks you the question, what makes an aircraft fly? It's the victory of thrust and lift over weight and drag. Say it with me a couple of times. I can't hear you, but I'm going to imagine in my head that you're actually listening to what I say. What makes an aircraft fly? The victory of thrust and lift over weight and drag. Now, because human beings are generally physical learners, I know I am. If I sit here and read the book, I don't really understand what I've read until I experience what it's trying to teach me. So there's a dance that we have come up with. And yes, make your parents do it with you in case they're watching. Come on. Let me turn my screen off again so you can see what we're going to do. over gravity and drag. We measure gravity in terms of weight for Shari. Okay, you can already see me? That means you never saw the screen. Okay, thank you. So I'm gonna get down here on my knees for a second so you can see what you do with your body. So how do we demonstrate victory? Or how do you see people talking about victory? We put our arms up. We say, victory, yeah, we won. So the first part is the victory. Now we're gonna try and go that way when we're moving, when we're flying, right? So which way does thrust have to work? That way. So we say the victory of thrust. Study karate a little bit. So actually don't punch each other, especially not your parents. Thrust, which way does lift work? Up. So you make yourself a wing and you lift yourself up, jump off the ground, right? Because lift is working that way. So the victory of thrust and lift. Now, which way does gravity work? Down. So once you get down from lift, just go down a little more. That's where weight works. And if we're trying to go that way, which way does drag work? So you just lean back and make sure you stretch. This is for the parents. Make sure you stretch because drag is going that way. So the way the dance goes, what makes an aircraft fly? The victory of thrust and lift over weight and drag. Yes, we're gonna do it. Everybody stand up, get out of your chairs, and let's try it. What makes an aircraft fly? The victory of thrust and lift over weight and drag. And that's the dance. Now, I want everybody to record themselves doing it and send it to me. I'm waiting for the laughter. I get it. We physically go out and fly an airplane. I want you to physically understand all these forces. That's why we do that. I don't bend like that anymore. I barely do. Used to be able to almost lay over backwards on that one. Thumbs up. Okay, so we got about 9 minutes left. I've been through most of what I wanted to cover. I can answer a couple of questions and let's see. Okay, so let's see, Liam. The best plane is a long, thin, pointy thing with wings and a giant rocket arrow spike. Okay, when we talk about airplane design, the first question you always ask is, well, what am I going to do with it? So if I want to go high and fast and not carry much, yeah, I think a long, thin, pointy thing would work. But if I want to fly a cargo airplane like mine, that's not going to be very useful. Okay, sometimes fast isn't everything you want to do. Okay, my mom says once I'm down, I stay down. I think that means sleeping. Any thoughts on solar airplanes? So, solar power, that means electric, right? It depends again what you want to do. There have been a couple of projects out there where I just want to put something up there that can retransmit information. It can operate as a communication node. Those can stay airborne, don't need a human in it. So an electric powered system with long solar system covered wings would work pretty well. I'm flying at night, trying to get you from New York to London. That's going to be a problem. Okay, so again, it depends on the design. But yes, there are all kinds of applications for electrically powered systems that are tailored to a specific mission. Is this the same for spaceships in terms of solar power? So as long as you can see the sun and you can get your solar panels pointed towards them, you can produce electricity in space quite well. You don't have the surface of a planet blocking you from your source of energy. So that's much, I would never say space is easy, but it's easier to produce solar power in space, properly designed for it, than it is on the ground, because eventually we rotate away from the sun because we have day and night because of Earth's rotation. Okay, I think I've got about 2 more minutes because we have to get ready for the next session. Just make sure I got everybody's questions up there. All right. So remember, when someone asks you the question, what makes an aircraft fly? The 4 forces of flight in their relationship, the victory of thrust and lift over weight and drag. I want to see those videos. Thanks for coming. Oh, by the way, if you're interested in other things with aviation, we do have a aviation camp. We're hoping COVID lets us do it in person this year, where we actually take you flying. There's an Experimental Aircraft Association out there. We hope to fly young people for free at a double legal airport. We used to do that 5 times a year until COVID hit last year, and we're hoping to return to fly this year. We're just waiting to see how this thing plays out. So please look us up, and it's all out there on our website. You're most welcome. Have a good day.